America. My name is Osei-Frimpong. I come to you live every Thursday about this time. Today I'm doing a special Friday show. I did spend a little bit of time, a little bit too much time working on my sound, so I should be coming loud and clear today, or at least clear-ish relative to my normal quality. You're welcome. I do not like doing that kind of stuff, yet I do it for the people. And if you appreciate what I'm doing, go ahead and go to www.funkyacademic.com. All right, so let's get right to it, talking about contradictions. All right, so everything that is and is meaningful is related to something else. And because it's related to something else, it's also not quite what it is in itself, right? I might be able to put this more clearly. Everything that you think is a thing is also not what it is also a contradiction. The thing is, most entities can sustain their contradiction. We call that their tolerance. So they are what they are, in addition to not being what they are, but they are what they are more than they're not what they're not. So we just kind of call them what they are. For example, the chair I'm sitting in is also a table. It's just more a chair than it is a table. So it's just more of a chair than it is a table. So that's why I call it a chair as opposed to a table. But it's also a table. I could put, my writing on it and write on it. Right? So everything is what it is, but also isn't what it is. This is important for things like Israel or feminism or the United States. The United States is both, a nation that's pledged to equality and also deeply racist. It is also, and its contradiction is what makes it what it is, and it is stably what it is. Feminism is deeply classist and racist. It is stably what it is. It has the resources in not being what it is in order to improve itself and transform itself. But it is what it is. Israel is an apartheid state. It might have the resources to not be an apartheid state. Judaism right now is an apartheid religion, insofar as Judaism is also Zionist. It's also not Zionist, but it's also Zionist. And the Zionist parts actually, I think, overwhelm the non-Zionist parts. I talk about going to a Shabbat service a few years ago at a regular mainline, particular synagogue in Chicago. And yeah, there was a big prayer for Israel. You could say it's just a prayer for peace for Israel, but it's talking about peace under the old regime, which was an apartheid regime. So they're praying for apartheid, which is not really something I can get down with, and I think is a non-benign form of American Judica. But I'm not saying that the religion doesn't have the resources to overcome its current Zionism, but I'm saying that it is Zionism, although that is the contradictions embedded in the religion to make it what it is. America, the contradiction between Declaration of Independence and its standing practices of racism, that contradiction makes the United States what it is. And everything is what it is with a standing contradiction because it has to relate to something that it's not. If it were just what it is without having to relate to anything that it's not, it could be pure. This is why when people talk about a relationship with God, it's got to be tricky or at least sophisticated. You need to kind of see how God is realized in this world. Because the idea is that what kind of relationship that you have with such a divine that doesn't pollute the divine for being in a relationship with you, right? Everything that's in a relationship with me can be predicated of me, which means it's in a way part of me. So I am also what I am not in being what I am. So in order to be what I am, I also have to be what I'm not. It's very important because we see contradictions in all of our aspects of life. And insofar as our aspects of life are related to other people, insofar as we are related to, Saudi Arabia, there's a little bit of the United States that is in itself a, Muslim theocracy, right? We are related to them. They could be predicated of us, even if we're a particular kind that's in distinction from them. It is insofar as we are the same kinds of things and can do business. We are the same kinds of things as they are, right? So every particular kind of thing, in order to be related to a different particular kind of thing, has to share qualities with that particular kind of thing, right? Without negating what it is to be what it is. That's what actually makes it and realizes it as a particular kind of thing, that it's also what it's not. Right? So don't let the contradiction of something like Israel or something like feminism, something like the United States, fool you into thinking that it's not what it is. You know, about Israel, I was actually thinking, I'm starting to feel bad for guys like Netanyahu and Ariel Sharon and Yitzhak Rabin, insofar as they get blamed for running an apartheid state that they are elected to run. Like, they get blamed for doing their job by people who want to deny that that's why they got elected, that's why, you put those guys in office. Three guys, same three guys, they get blamed as the bad men for doing the job, but that's the job. They get blamed by people who want like a nicer, cuter, cuddlier Israel, but then when that nicer, cuter, cuddlier Israel gets is liable to being taken over by people who want their land back, they elect a strong guy, and then that strong guy does what strong guy does, because the people who want a nice, cute, cuddly Israel don't actually want a nice, cute, cuddly Israel. They want an apartheid state. They just can't admit to themselves or their friends that they want an apartheid state. And so I'm telling you the truth. I have to tell them the truth about themselves, which is kind of sad, but also often I find myself often telling people the truth about themselves because they don't want to tell the truth about themselves. So I have to tell the truth about them to themselves. So Sharon, Ariel Sharon, Yitzhak Rabin, Benjamin Netanyahu, they're all scapegoats for the Israeli people wanting what the Israeli people want, what the Zionists want, what the Zionists want. And the low-key soft Zionists, in the same way that Democrats are soft racists, like everyday liberal Jews are kind of soft Zionists. Unless you're saying, like, we need to get rid of Israel, you're a soft Zionist, because anything that's peace in the Middle East is just supporting an apartheid state. You want to support an apartheid state? I do not want to support an apartheid state. And that is what it is. Don't let the contradiction fool you. Don't let the contradiction or the fact of contradiction confuse you into thinking things aren't what they are. Everything that is what it is also not what it is. So that's going to have a contradiction, except people will use that contradiction to try to gaslight you into thinking that things aren't what they are, that Israel isn't an apartheid state, that feminism isn't, also classist and racist, and that the United States isn't racist, just because there are contradictions. Just because there are contradictions. But it has to be a contradiction in order for it to be related to something that it's not. Right? So don't let people bludgeon you with fake contradictions telling you that what you think, what you know to be true isn't true, and what you could see isn't what obviously is the case. It doesn't. Now the contradictions also hold possibly the key to potential progress, but as it stands, the contradictions have to be. As it stands, the contradictions, have to be acknowledged, and the contradictions have to be acknowledged as a possible source of progress, but not as degrading like what actually the thing is. The contradiction actually makes it what it is, because everything, and I'll say this again because it's important, everything has to be contradictory in order to be related to something that it's not, because once you're related to something that's not, that thing that you're not can be predicated of you as being related to it. And so you are a part of it. It is a part of you, and it makes you what you are. Your relationships often make you what you are. So part of what you are is being related to what you're not. That means part of what you are is what you're not. And it's going to lead you into a contradiction, but that's going to be also, it's going to lead you to your realization. So don't let the contradictions get you to deny the truth of what's happening. Say, oh yeah, blank and blank is contradictory. That's what makes it what it is. And it also makes it able to relate. I can relate the situation of South Africa to Israel because Israel is a contradiction. I can also relate, a better democracy to Israel because Israel's both an apartheid state and a contradiction. And you can't be, and, Biden said something ludicrous the other day. He says he supports Israel being a safe, secure, Jewish, democratic state today and forever. You can't be both a Jewish and a democratic state, because what happens when non-Jews are born there? Right? Are they not part of the demos? So yeah, when we talk about tolerance, we talk about tolerance as being how much of being what you are is what you're not. That's your tolerance. If you're more what you're not than what you are, you aren't what you are anymore. You aren't what you were, right? So instead of just using contradictions as an excuse to just disregard the truth of something, think, well, it is tolerably what it is and tolerably what it's not. And that will be a better way of actually accounting for what you're doing. And you need that because if anything absolutely what it is, it cannot be related to anything else. Right? So relations, the fact of relations, and the fact that you need particular identities that are distinct from other particular identities that are related in being distinct from each other, they both need to actually share properties, which means each isn't what it is purely, right? Absolutely. It is relative to this other thing, but it also isn't relative to this other thing. That's why it's related to this other thing. So Israel is part South Africa, part the United States. We don't live in a world, we don't live in a world of absolutes. Reality is not absolute. That's very good. This microphone is also a chin rest. We don't live in a world of absolute. It's also not a chin rest, it's a microphone. Right? We don't live in a world of absolutes. Everything is related to other things, which means everything is not what it is. It's also, or being what it is means it also isn't what it is. It is something else. Right? So thank you. I hope this helps you think through contradictions in a meaningful way. And anytime you kind of get lost in rehearsing this argument, think about what you need to be related to others. Think about what you need to be. You need to be other than yourself in order to be related to others. And that's just kind of how things are. But that's also part of what it is to be yourself, is to be other than yourself. So, if you appreciate what I'm doing, go ahead and go to www.funkyacademic. I'm going to talk about something completely different on Monday. Yeah, everything that I'm not made me that I am. That's okay. So that's Kanye. That's actually, yes. Everything that you are not makes you what you are. And your relation to what you are not makes you what you are. But your relation to what you're not also makes you what you're not. It makes you part of that thing. You see this in when they cast Marvel villains. All of the Marvel villains are very close to the heroes because they have to set up a relationship to them, right? Like Venom and Spider-Man have to be very similar. Iron Man. I'm reading this with some of these with my kids. One of the enemies is Titanium Man. the green, like all of Spider-Man's enemies are like scientists because Spider-Man's also in order to actually relate to them, they have to be each other. Magneto and Professor X, they all have to be what they're not, and tempted, and this is why Magneto is tempted to be good and Professor X is tempted to be bad. Like that's what, in order to account for the relation, each has to be what they're not. But yet, in order to be what they are, they have to be distinct from what they're not. And so each holds its contradiction in order to sustain its identity. And if you find, antagonisms, both like Batman and Joker are both social misfits. That's why they can get along and understand each other, and actually why you get a good antagonism between them. If that wasn't the case, it would be confusing. Like you wouldn't get to see like how they even relate to each other. Like what are they even doing with each other? What are they like? So. Just so you know, I didn't see the latest Spider-Man movie, Into the Whatever, but I guess Spider-Man's fighting with other Spider-Mans, which is actually interesting. Math gets a little bit weird. Juan Betancourt, math gets a little bit weird for different reasons. But I hope this is helpful. I hope this helps you understand like the world and how like relationships and things can be contradictions and need their contradictions insofar as they need relationships. But the contradictions make them what they are, and withstanding the contradictions kind of accounts for tolerance, but you need to sustain the contradictions if you want to sustain the relationships. Superman's an interesting one, right? Because for us to get Superman, he can't be all powerful. The limits on Superman are always really tricky. Like anytime he's depicted, how strong is he? Like he has to be strong enough so that we understand that he could struggle with things. And that's hard. And then we have to have a weakness. So he can't be super in all things. He, like we, have to be vulnerable to like unrequited love and a dicey relationship with Lois Lane. And so he is both super and not super. If he was super in all things, he'd be absolute and would be indifferent to Lois Lane. Or he would be indifferent to a lot of things. Right? So in order to sustain relationships, you have to also be other than what to sustain a relationship, you have to sustain a relationship with something that's other than you. And that means you have to also, what's other than you, be predicated of you. So Superman needs to be human enough. And sometimes my mind kind of goes to filthy things. And I think, sex with one of these super beings just sounds like very, very dangerous business. And I'll leave you with that. I'll see you on Monday.